because in Uganda today we have a curriculum that doesn't cover this issue, especially at this level of understanding. For those of you who have previewed it, I think you can see that the language is very simple. You can see that the story itself is palatable for a child of a young age, which often is an issue, because when young children get molested, they don't usually understand what is happening. Therefore, they don't have the language to come and express it, and that's how adults are getting away with doing this. So when I launched this book in Protea in Kampala, we couldn't hardly keep a copy on the shelves. Sometimes we were printing up to 2,000 copies in just 1 week. So parents in Kampala, we're in rural, they're in the urban areas, have really embraced this book. There's a gap in the Ugandan school system. They don't teach children. If they do, they mention it briefly, but they don't teach children about child sexual abuse. And personally, I have come to the conclusion that child sexual abuse is an epidemic bigger than Corona ever was, bigger than even AIDS ever was, because it happens in homes and it happens between family members. It is shrouded in secrecy. So I have written this book to teach children from as young as, if a child can sit down and listen to a story about the hare and the monkey, they can read this book. I have written a book that you can now teach your children that to be touched inappropriately is wrong. So it teaches them how to recognize that touching, when it happens, what to do, in short. And we have illustrated it with pictures. The pictures are palatable. There's nothing obscene. So we have called it the bad touch. And we describe different forms of bad touching in the book for children. But I wrote this book as well. It's on a more mature level. This one is the one that mostly secondary school teachers have approached me for, headmasters and so on. They have bought this for almost every library now in Kampala has this book. And I get emails all the time. They have reviewed it. Sometimes they even write exams on it or so on. So this one is also moving. So I don't want us to solely focus on this one. This one will also be available at the book launch. This is my autobiography. It's the original book that I wrote. Like I said as I was starting, it is out of this book that this book was birthed. Yes. So if you want to know my story, and for young adults, youth who are struggling with the same issue, this book will give you a lot of solutions as well. My books are put in a category of what they call self-help books. So you read them for the benefit of something. It's not just a story. And so I took a brief break because I had to do some things, raise children in America and so on and so forth. But I have now embarked on a nationwide tour. And being a daughter of Arua, born down the street here in Vara, I decided that I would flag off this tour here in Arua. So we are going to be launching this book on the 20th of September at, I can't pronounce it, Letsuba? Yes, who have come on board as one of our sponsors. The event is going to start at 4 o'clock. We should be no more than 1.5 hours. It's a child-friendly event. We actually encourage parents to come, especially with their children. We will have just some small, brief entertainment by a local artist, TIG, and a few young children who, some orphans, and some local village children will entertain us. But ultimately, it is to bring this book to the Arua market. I remember when I launched it in Kampala, I did an interview on NBS, and probably 50% of all the calls were coming from Arua. So I thought it would be interesting to launch off, to kick off the tour here. I want to start here. Possibly next is, I think we said Gulu, finish this step, and then go down to the east and so on until we revert back to Kampala. It will be 25,000. We were hoping that it would be cheaper. We're basically selling it at cost. This is not a venture for me to make money. I live a good life in the US. We print these books through New Vision. Inflation has hit us. And they had given me the option to compromise and print it in black and white, but I didn't think it would be as effective. So I told them if I have to pay the 25,000, I will pay the 25,000 so that we can maintain the integrity. And that's what we are doing. And so for every copy which we print, we turn around and immediately print another copy. But what we do is we have we are offering schools a program, and which I would like for you guys to help us to let them know. There's an offer for the schools, because I do receive sponsorship. If schools are willing to order this for their students in bulk, we will offer that 5,000 to them as an incentive. So the school has been given permission to keep the 5,000 if whenever for the number of books they sell to their students. So if they sell it for 25,000, they keep 5, give us back 20. So that should incentivize them to get the school into the books into their schools. And what we have had happening is we have had individuals who are buying books. I remember the book launch, the owner of this hotel, the late Rosemary, who passed away, bought 200 books, brought them to Arua, and started passing them out to the schools. So we are encouraging businessmen here in town, people who can afford to, because not everybody here can buy $25,000 book, shilling book, but those who can, we're asking them to buy in bulk and to distribute on our behalf. So it's a community effort. This is a bedtime story that you can tell your children in the evening when you sit down to, before they go to bed. I've had parents go to school on school reading day. Some parents who have supported me go to these schools and sit down and read to different classes of schools. Nursery schools order these books in Kampala. This book in Kampala sells to a point that sometimes we're unable to keep up with demand. So we're trying to show value in investing in this sort of thing. If you look at just mental health in itself, addiction, a lot of adult issues are based in childhood trauma. And research has shown us that the majority of that trauma comes from sexual related trauma. So we cannot, when we look at some adults, sometimes people who are dysfunctional in their lives as adults, if you look at their history, this issue usually is there. 80% of prostitutes were touched or molested as children. So these issues have to be caught at the grassroots level. If we don't attack them now, and then we have a dysfunctional adult community, we can't complain, but by that time, usually it's too late. It lets you know that it doesn't matter who does it, whether it's daddy or mommy or whoever, you can always tell. You can always tell somebody. And that is the challenge of children, boundaries. For me, for example, I didn't speak out until I was 35 years old, because when I was growing up, that sort of thing was not discussed, and it was called bad manners. So how do you report that you are participating in bad manners? So parents have to widen that gap or bring their children close enough and develop that sort of relationship where their children can always tell them about something. But we're also careless as parents. I know women who lock their bedrooms when they leave home because they don't want the maid to go in and use their perfume or whatever. But you're leaving your child with that same maid. And yet your child is more valuable than the perfume in your room. You see what I mean? So we have to become vigilant, and we have to let such topics not be so taboo. Sex is not discussed in the African home. We need to change that. Call it whatever you want. Your cookie, your sugar, your whatever. Call it with your child, whatever you feel you want to name that part. But be ready to discuss. Let me know if Molly is bathing you and touching you there more than she should. Did she ask you to touch? That sort of thing. Let it be open dialogue with your children, so that when something does happen to them, they can come and tell you, Mommy, so-and-so touched my pee-pee. That sort of thing. But it is true. The challenge is that the people who are abusing our children are related to them. Let me tell you, I'll be on some of your stations very soon. I talk to these community people. I have walked the halls of parliament. I have reached State House with this fight. Let me tell you the problem with Uganda here. When our leaders are not benefiting from something financially, for them to support you is hard. And especially my cause is not something that there's something that they're going to get, And especially with my attitude, I'm not coming here to make money or whatever. So some of them don't see the value in supporting me. You see what I mean? So this fight has been a difficult fight for me. I have mostly fought it on my own. But I have to say that I have got some supports here and there. Like you've seen, Awilo came here the other day. How many people went to see that Awilo show? How many people do you think are going to show up for this book launch? You know what I mean? That is the challenge. We don't see value in these things, but we have to create that value. But that doesn't mean that I don't march on. I'm going to go on regardless. That is why you guys being here is important. You're already playing your part. You see what I mean? So let's start. What happens will happen. My focus is not so much the adult. My focus is the child. Because if I arm the child with the knowledge that they need, we are removing the power from the hands of the perpetrator. We're now putting the power in the hands of the child. If a child learns how to say no, and if a child learns how to resist this issue, now the deviant that person who has been disturbing this child has now become powerless. The word no is a powerful word. You know, this issue is layered on so many levels. There are cultural aspects that we have to, mindsets that we have to clean. Then there's that element of the girl in the home. When a man says something, how do you respond? You know, so there's so many things that we have to look at that are surround this issue. My part is just a small dynamic, but it is a beginning. So like I said, the community has to be involved. Our leaders have to be involved. So many people have to be involved. So it is not just one thing that I can answer that this is what is going to change it. It starts slowly and hopefully it will expand. Like anything else, we didn't know about AIDS at a certain time in life when it just started. But once we realized how much of a problem it was, we all came together. Now, there's no child who doesn't know that AIDS is caused by, you know, that sort of thing. So it's a journey that we are all on. We are still in the pioneering year. I don't even know if in our lifetime that we will see a drastic change. But at least let's spark that flame, and hopefully the future generations can benefit from it.